Hi, so this is Federico with Cuttle, and welcome to today's live stream. Today I have um, I have a sort of work in progress thing to show you. There are things to do with it, like that you can do right away, but we haven't like fully refined it. So this is a little bit of a sort of peek behind the scenes. So hi everyone, thanks for coming. So yeah, let's get started. So the idea we had is that we wanted to make this process of making inlays a little bit easier. And so an inlay is when you take essentially two types of materials, and then you put like a piece of material inside another, inside a sort of hole. So for example, here I have a sample here to show you. So this one is a little, this is a acrylic that we put on these. So this is a piece of acrylic inlaid inside of the earring, inside of this wood piece. And this is another one where we use this kind of cool purple glittery acrylic inside of this one. And so there are some like subtleties to doing that. And so we were thinking it'd be really cool to do something that makes the process like way easier. And so that's like the goal with this thing I have on the screen. We called it the inlay kit because it's something that is somewhere in between a template and a way to make your life easier when you're designing things yourself. So here's what we created. So I'll put this link in the comments. This is unlisted, meaning anyone can see it, but it's not like on the explore page or on the templates page. So that's the link. So here in the link, what we have like is some description, some instructions on how to use it, but most importantly, we created this like tester. So I'm gonna open this tester here, and I can show you what's the story with the tester. So the idea with the tester is that you can just cut it out of two separate materials and then just test the kind of compensation that works better for you. But actually, let me backtrack a little bit. If you're unfamiliar with making inlays, what happens is that you would think you want to make a shape, something like this. Let's say I want to make an earring that is a little elongated like so. And so I just make my shape. And then let's say I want to cut a separate piece right here inside of it. And so if I send these just like that to the laser cutter, on the screen, it looks like this inside piece should just like match perfectly. But what happens in reality is that if you cut those two pieces, this is not exactly the thing I just showed you on screen, but this is the example. Like if you cut these two pieces, like the central one here has been just cut in place, which is that hole. So you've seen what happens before is that this piece is a little bit loose, like it essentially doesn't stick, it doesn't stay there. And so what happens is that the laser cutter basically vaporized this line of material, and so that material is gone, and so that's what creates this central piece to be like wiggly, or it doesn't stay in place. So the whole point is that you need to figure out a way to expand the central piece or contract the outside piece so they kind of match once you cut it. So yeah, as someone in the comments says, is the dreaded kerf. But like, it doesn't have to be complicated. So what people in generally do is that, like, say, with this design, you would have to do a number of operations. Like you would create this separate cut piece. So you would like, separate it. And so this would be the hole, and this would be the piece that goes into the hole. And so what you would do is you would like expand it by some amount, some arbitrary amount or something like that. So you expand that one and you can contract that one by another amount, usually a similar amount. And so I'm kind of exaggerating here. These are not the actual amounts, but like once you have the sort of expanded and contracted piece and you cut those, what happens? I'm going to change the color. What happens is that when you put these one inside the hole on your laser cutter, you can see there is like a difference between the two of them. That difference is essentially the size of the stuff that got kind of burned away or vaporized by the laser cutter. And so at the end, you hopefully get a nice match. But the whole point is that we wanted to make this process a little bit easier. So we created this tester. So the idea with the tester is that you go ahead and cut it. So this is just like a regular template. And I think for most people, you can just go ahead and cut this tester as is. If you wanted to make more fine, more refined testers, you can always, reduce the starting point here, and then all of this will adjust. And so what this template does is that it kind of automatically applies this amount of compensation, that expansion and that contraction that has that kind of fancy term, the kerf. And then it lets you kind of test it. So I actually went ahead and cut one where like it starts at 0, right? So no compensation on the first piece, and then it just increases by a little bit. This is in inches, by the way. So I'm actually going to show you that one. So that one I cut first. So here it is. So I just went ahead and cut it, and then here are the test pieces. And so something kind of I cut these pieces out of walnut, and then I cut this one out of maple. And something that people commonly do with these inlays is that you cut them in one direction, and then you flip them over to place them here. And the reason to do that is kind of interesting. Maybe I can show you. And that is that when you cut things with the laser cutter, there is a little bit of a slant in the cut, and this is natural. This is like a normal thing that happens. I think I can actually see the slant. Here's a piece. Let me see if that. Yeah. So. No, it's kind of hard to see. But anyway, like when I put the piece like so, this section right here is not perfectly straight up and down. It has like a little bit of a slant. And so what happens is that if both pieces that you cut have that slant or that sort of skew, then when you cut this one and this one should have the same slant, but when I flip it over, then that kind of slant compensates for itself. So when doing inlays, in general, you want to cut something and then flip it to put it in place. So we kind of accommodated for that. But here's the sort of way I would use this tester. So here I have let me zoom in so I can show you. So this one right here has 0 compensation. So basically, you can see how the piece kind of wiggles in. So it's the same as if I didn't do anything as the first example. So then with this one, I added, that amount of compensation on both sides. So still wiggles. And so let's try the 002. So you can see how the wiggle gets like less and less every time. But let's see that one, still no. Let's see that one, still wiggles. See that one still wiggles. So this was like, so if I lift it, you'll see that all of those kind of fall, but actually the 005 kind of stays. It's not sufficient, so we wouldn't necessarily use these kind of compensation. So I actually went ahead and cut the one that is the default. So let me put it here. So the default starts at 005, which is kind of going to do the work for most people. So let's look at that one. So here's the default, and then here are the little matching pieces. And so, sorry about the wiggling camera. So let's see, the 005 should behave pretty similar. It kind of, yeah, this one didn't stay. So let's test, let's keep on testing. The 006, actually, I can feel it going in a little bit nicer. And I can see that there is like, I got a little click and then it actually stays in place. But like if I try and push it out, it will kind of come out relatively easy. So let's kind of keep going. So for my machine and for these two materials, the 007 compensation seems to just have a nice press fit. And then the 008 is pretty good. I just kind of feel it. So I think these in general would get you in the ballpark if you use like 007 and 008, which is kind of like the default we use in other places. And then let's see the 009. That one goes in, but I really have to press it. And if I flip it over, you'll see that it doesn't, it's kind of hard to make it go all the way in. I have to like, I have to sort of break it, but even then it's not quite ideal. And then finally the 010, then this one just doesn't do in this case. So that's how you would use the tester. Like you find essentially a couple of numbers that seem to work well, and then I think you go with it. One caveat is that I think that each material will essentially vaporize in different ways, or depending on the power settings and all of that. So I think you should try and test the materials that you're going to be using. So that's why I cut these inlays out of walnut, but I actually made another test. See if I can like take these apart to show you the other test. So I can reuse this base piece if I don't like, if I didn't damage it too much by pressing all these pieces in. But I did cut one out of acrylic. Random hack I kind of ran into. I don't know if this is useful or not, but I found I had this paper glass marking pencil, and this was like great for creating some contrast when I scored the numbers. I just kind of rubbed it in and then wiped it with my finger. This is like a little waxy kind of pencil. Anyway, I don't know how durable it is, but it is. That's how we are able to see those numbers right now. So sometimes I feel like you get slightly different behaviors depending on the material that you use. So once again, I'm going to be flipping these around. So the 05 just kind of wiggles in place. The 06, stays, but it kind of wants to fall away. With this one, I feel that the 08 gave me kind of like the nicer fit. And then the 009 was kind of doing something similar to the other, where like I couldn't push it all the way in. And this last one, I can push it in similar to the 009. Like it doesn't go all the way in nicely, but so anyway, that's kind of like the overview on how you would use that particular tester. So once again, I think it kind of gets you in the ballpark. But once you find out the number that you want, then I think you can pretty much go ahead with to use that number. The question about somebody's asking why do I flip them? So I was explaining that when you cut, let's see, when you cut with the laser, it's normal that, I don't know, I need to get myself a nice microscope view. But essentially, this piece, this is the top piece. So when it gets cut, it creates like a slanted edge. This edge, if you look at it more closely, is like at an angle, like so. And so when you flip them, you kind of match this one is also at an angle. So by flipping it, those two angles kind of, they're both slanted. So one kind of falls like these on top of the other. So that was like the reason for the flipping. So that means with flipping, you need to do less compensation, like a smaller number, and you still get a tighter fit. That was just answering a question that was on the comments. So I think once you get a number that works for you, I found that the 08 works, then you can go ahead and like use it in other designs. So I'm going to show you just a couple of the designs we created, and then I'm going to show you how to use the kit so you can create your own designs. So this kit link that I put on the comments has a link to the tester, and then how to use it, and then at the bottom we made a couple of designs. So let me show you this design. So this one also also a work in progress, but you can play with it if you want. So this one also has it works like a regular template. Ooh, sorry about that. So this one also works like a regular template. Work in progress. Works like a regular template in that you get this preview, and then the only thing, by the way, I messed up with my screen. You can get the link to these to these three designs at the bottom of the inlay kit. So this one works like a regular template in that it lets you choose the scale. That just changes kind of like roughly the size of the earrings, and then it shows you the kerf, and that's it. So you can here put the kerf that you want, and then you hit download, and then you should get this file, which is the two materials. So yeah, so Donna on the comments is commenting about this idea that I was about to show you. So if I download this design, then the cut that I get is something like this. So I was just gonna show you. And I left the masking on because something we were running into was that, if you peel the masking off, it's actually kind of difficult to tell which was the top and which was the bottom. But when you have the masking, you can pretty much tell because, the top has a sort of burn pattern on it. And then the bottom has a slightly different burn pattern. I guess, you would have more of the kind of like flashing. And so I think this is good to know because, so I would advise that you keep the masking on or even mark it, say mark it as this is the top and this is the top. And so this middle piece just kind of gets discarded. And so then I actually cut a little sample with this acrylic. I think sometimes with the acrylic, it's a little bit easier to see that slant I've been mentioning. Let me see if I can show you here. Yeah, I think a little bit more visible. You can sort of see that there is like a bit of a slant. This is like this edge is not perfectly perpendicular. So I just remember that I cut these with these facing towards the top. This acrylic has like more glitter on one side than on the other. So I faced the sort of opaque side towards the top. So I'm gonna flip it over and place it where I want it to go. By the way, I use the 007 for this one. So same with these, I'm gonna flip it over. And one trick we found out is that you can press it with your fingers, but like sometimes for the ones that get a little bit harder to press, one nice thing to do is to just take a scrap of plywood or a block and then use that to like use the whole area and then just press down or even use a mallet to get a nice like push. Similar there, I think. I mean, this design is a little easier, but for some others. And I think that that's a nice fit in this case. Then I can build a masking of. So this is a walnut, and that is some nebula acrylic from Houston Acrylics. So I think that's the basic idea for how to use these two. I had other samples, but I'm kind of running out of time, so I want to show you. I want to get to using the kit. The other two designs we made are this one and this cat. This is my own black cat, and you can find those designs linked at the bottom of the inlay kit template. So you'll find the little curb wedge and the cat face earrings here. Oh, I'm glad. Yeah. So you saw the slant on the acrylic. Thanks for. So I think the next I want to show you just how to use the kit for you to make your own designs. So this is how it works. Because this inlay kit is not strictly a template, we didn't create a component here for you to download. So this one, you need to go ahead and click on this button at the top, the Open in Cuttle editor. So when you open that, this project has just two separate components. It has this one called the design and this one called the cut. And so it's very easy to use. I'm gonna delete this one just to show you. Actually, I'm not gonna delete it quite yet. So whenever I think a good practice is that whenever you open in Cuttle editor, you'll see immediately you get these copy this project down here. That means. And I think it's good to do that for each design you make. So you hit copy this project, and this makes a copy that becomes private on your own projects folder. And I think it's nice to change the name right away, so you don't get confused. So I'm gonna call this one the inlay kit demo. It's for my own organization. So now I'm just making changes on a copy of the kit. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this one. And so this is how you use it. You start by making like a base shape. And so I think most earrings, kind of a normal size is about 1.5 by 1. So I'm just gonna start with like a sort of oval here. And then that would be my base shape. And very importantly, I wanna give it a fill. So I just select that shape, and then I click here on the fill, and that's the kind of overall shape of the earring I want to make. It's not limited to earrings; you can make other things, but I'm just using that as an example. And now to make any inlay shape, I take another shape, I put it on the center. I want to scale it so I have a reasonable amount of material on the outside, and I simply give it a fill color that is different from the base color. So I'm just gonna choose this bright pink, and that's basically it. Like I don't have to apply the expand or the contract on my own. When I go here to the cut, you'll see that the component immediately took that shape I designed and then made it into two separate shapes. And these two shapes actually have that expand and that contract applied based on the kerf that we defined. And so you can always, define a bigger kerf if you want. It seems like for most people something like this works. And so that's like the base idea. So if you want to add any holes to it, like for example, to make a little finding, a little hook, you would place any other shape. I'm going to make this shape smaller. I'm just drawing a circle, and to make that into a simple hole that doesn't create an additional shape to make an inlay, I just make it white. So I give it a fill. So fill, and I choose the color white. And then if I look at the cut now, I have my base shape with the hole and then the additional shape that's going to be my inlay. So as simple as that. I think this is a way to kind of liberate you into making, into just quickly iterating designs. So the other thing that applies is that so any shape that is white will just become a cutout, and you don't have to, have it inside. What I mean by that is that, for example, say I want the oval, but I actually want to just make like a sort of rainbow shape. So I can create like a rectangle that is white. So as long as that rectangle is white, that's just kind of like masking out that shape. And then let's say I want a little star inlay. Ideally, I would make a little rainbow inlay, but if I want a little, so if I go look at the cut, oh, I'm forgetting. If I go look at the cut, I'm like, where is my star? So I need to give it a separate, I need to give it a fill and have that be a different color. So now if I look at the cut, I have that kind of shape that I intended, that sort of half oval. So yeah, I think this is like a really fun in between the template and a way to facilitate your designs. I'm gonna quickly show you a technique that we like a lot. I have like a couple of minutes, unless you have any questions. A technique we like to use a lot, or that Toby introduced me to, is that there is this fun technique where you create some paths. Let's say you want to create a sort of teardrop. So I'm just created a path using the pen tool, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and edit that path by double clicking into it. And when I double click on the nodes, and so I can sort of, move things around. I can pull and push the curves around to give like an interesting shape. And now what I'm gonna do with this shape is that I want to mirror it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So it kind of creates kind of like a relatively elegant teardrop. And if I want to make any more tweaks to that, I can always double click into the line, and then you can see how, that gives me a better sense of what the shape looks like. And so I want to make this shape into a shape that I can apply a fill to. So in order to do that, I need to connect those two paths. So there is a modifier that lets me connect. So it's called merge paths. And now that means I can actually give these a fill. So yeah, let's make it red. And so I can immediately see here on the preview that my cut already has that shape. And so I can quickly add and hold for the finding. We see that a lot of people are using 0.06 inches for that hole. So I'm gonna make that into a white fill. So that creates a hole. And I probably want that hole to be closer to the top. And finally, for an interesting inlay inside, I don't know, let's use the pill shape. Maybe I'm gonna use the pill shape, but I'm gonna stretch it myself. It looks like a mouth, and then I just need to give it a different color. And I can just immediately send this to my laser cutter and try those two materials. So hopefully this empowers you to like quickly generate shapes and quickly, generate interesting inlay. We're calling these press fit inlays because there is another type of inlay where you engrave, but in this case, you're actually just cutting all the shapes and then press fitting them in. So yeah, hopefully this empowers you to design and make cool stuff. I love to see what you make. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.